welcome to Meet Your Ministers. I'm Shereen Bhan and we're in conversation with the Commerce Minister and the Minister of State for Finance, Nirmala Sitharaman. Mr. Sitharaman, appreciate you joining us here on CNBC TV 18. Let me start by asking you about what you make of the economic situation at this point in time. The Prime Minister has said that tough decisions will need to be taken. The Finance Minister has said that the economy will take at least 2 years to get back on the recovery path or to get back above the 6% kind of growth rate. How bad, to your mind, is the situation today?
Well, it is great. There is no doubt about it. The economy is not at all in a state where you can have out-of-the-box thinking and do a lot of newer, activities. It doesn't give you the comfort to play around with certain decisions that you want to take. All your attempt is now to slowly but steadily lift the economy from the morass it has fallen into.
So if I can pick up on what you said, the situation at this point in time, you said, does not give the government the comfort or the freedom to do the sort of things that you would like to do. It does not perhaps give you the fiscal space or the fiscal room to take the actions that you would like to take. So what can we then expect in the current context as far as actions from the government are concerned?
Well, first of all, I think it will be the budget, if you're referring to that. Just as the Honorable President's speech was, will definitely set a tone about what this government intends to do. It will set the direction. It will also do some immediate urgent course corrections. And above all, it will make sure that the message for every sector, be it the manufacturing, be it agriculture, service, or even for the consumers, the message would be we are already in the job, we are going to be doing it with right earnest, and restoration of confidence in the economy will be our first priority.
I'll pick up on the restoration of confidence in just a bit, but I want to pick up on the issue of course correction. You said that the budget will be an attempt to course correct. What would you like to course correct at this point in time? Is it moving away from the kind of profligate spending that the UPA did as far as welfare schemes are concerned? Is it to cut down subsidies further? Things like diesel deregulation is going to be something on the cards that we may perhaps see the budget take forward. I know you can't talk to me about specifics, but when you talk about course correction, what should we understand that to mean?
First of all, course correction is that this is a government which will take decisions, which will act, which will govern. It is not going to be a government which will procrastinate. It will be a government which understands that urgent steps will have to be taken when time is appropriate, like the way in which yesterday we made certain decisions to contain inflation, certain decisions to make sure that there will not be shortages of essential commodities, even if, let's assume that the monsoon fails. So you will see the government in action. A government in action is what we want to very clearly, first of all, give a message on. Second, of course, there will be action on the confusion that prevails, that is it going to be an investor-friendly country? Is it going to be a country where investors can come and safely invest and be sure that there are not going to be, complications that they have to sort out? We will certainly give a message on that. So
I'm going to interrupt you and ask you that, because when you talk about sending out a message to foreign investors that this is a country that they can safely do business in, and this is a country that will ensure that there is a stable tax regime or stable regulatory regime, the big question then is, what do you intend doing as far as the retrospective tax is concerned? There has been no clear answer from any leader in the BJP on what you actually intend to do. Yesterday, the Law Minister said retrospective taxes should be avoided at all costs. You're saying that we would like to send out a message to investors that India is a place where their business would be welcome. Will there be amendments to the retrospective act? Will there be any kind of clarification? What is the message going to be?
See, first of all, it is just about 3 weeks after not even yet 3 weeks after we took over. And the message during the campaign on retrospective tax, even by the Prime Minister, then the candidates from the BJP, has been very clear. So no answers may not be something I'll agree on. We have said it in the manifesto, about which we went about campaigning, on which we got the mandate.
That there should be no retrospective tax, but will you course correct?
And the course correction is a larger, course correction is a word which I've used in the larger context, which includes retrospective tax also. The reason why we may not be talking about it in so many different words is because the budget is just another 2 weeks away. Taxation is an important component in any budgetary speech. Sure. And given the fact that we are talking about retrospective tax, given the fact it's only 2 weeks away for the budget, it will be encroaching into the terrain of the finance minister, and many of us are very conscious about it. And therefore, I would think it is not for want of saying what we actually want to say.
But the message is clear.
Message is clear, and specifically, it will be voiced in no uncertain terms during the budget.
That there will be.
You saw an arbiter being appointed for Vodafone specific case.
So there will be, in no uncertain terms, a message that this budget will send out as far as retrospective taxes are concerned.
And whatever specific that message would be will certainly come out during the budget.
Okay. I want to now talk about the issue of investor confidence. This government has made it very clear that you would like to attract as much foreign direct investment as possible outside of multi-brand retail. On things like railways, railway operations, high-speed train operations, construction, cabinet notes were ready. What is the timeline that you're looking at? And I know this has only been 3 weeks for you in government, and there is a process of consultation afresh which is taking place. But is there a timeline that you're working with where we can see a tangible move towards opening up FDI in railways, for instance, opening up FDI in construction, for instance?
Actually speaking, I would want to contrast, because I can understand the eagerness of the market, eagerness of investors, eagerness of many people in India, the eagerness of the media, for instance, wanting to know why wouldn't we want to open up sooner rather than later. But that sooner will have to be understood in the context of 3 weeks of this government. We have already started speaking about FDI, opening up for defense. Of course, in defense, the intention is also with having to have an indigenous capability built in. We have started discussing that. We are talking about railways because we are very keen to get money. Railways and reforms in railways is a very big business.
So is this likely to be something that the railway budget will announce, or is this likely to be something that we could see beforehand?
Railway minister's prerogative again. I don't want to sound as if I'm being overcautious, but it is a respect for.
He did meet with the finance minister yesterday to discuss this issue. This was one of the issues that was discussed.
So railways needs it in a very big way, whether it is modernization, whether it is coach building, whether it is security and safety of passengers, whether it is safety of your lines, whether it is freight. Railways needs big money, big time. And certainly that is one of the areas in which we may have an intention to want to talk about it, and sooner rather than later take a call. Defense is another. Construction is the third one. So we have already started. I mean, imagine in 3 weeks.
No, I agree with you, but on defense specifically, because there have been concerns raised by individual ministries. For instance, the Ministry of Home Affairs is not particularly comfortable with going all the way up to 100%. What is your sense? And do you believe that to start with, perhaps a more calibrated approach would be the best thing, or would that be politically at least more acceptable to your government?
No, a calibrated approach is something which we'll certainly encourage. But of course, every ministry will have to have its input. Genuinely, they are the ones who should talk about it.
So do you believe it should be one shot, 100%, or do you believe a more measured approach is something that we ought to move forward with?
I think most of us are looking at measured approach. It will vary from ministry to ministry. What is a measured approach in one particular ministry may not be.
What is a measured approach in your eyes?
Well, of course, it is something which we'll have to open up. We should understand technology which comes along with investment. We cannot have just an opening up for the sake of getting the money. We should also build capacity.
So which technology is 74% acceptable to you, or 100% acceptable to you?
I won't speculate on this.
Okay. Since you were talking about investor confidence, and I know that we are having this discussion about FDI, and you've made it absolutely clear in the run-up to the elections that FDI and multi-brand retail is not something that the BJP government will stand for. But if you were to do a U-turn on it, it will be your retrospective tax moment. So am I to understand that while you will not encourage investment in the sector, you will not perhaps clear investment in the sector, there will be benign negligence as opposed to doing a U-turn?
Well, I'm not sure I'll go with that argument at all. No. It is a commitment given. And it is not because we don't want to do a U-turn, because it will look like a retrospective tax moment.
Aren't you worried about that?
No, I'm not even worried about it, because my commitment to not getting the FDI is very clear. So why am I talking about U-turn? Why am I talking about...
Because it is a stated policy. People have already put in investments, and if you were to tell investors on one hand that we want you to do business in India, on the other hand, do a U-turn on a stated policy, it sends out mixed signals. It sends out confusion.
I hope we are not pushing ourselves to say, unless I open up in every sector, India is going to look retrograde.
No, absolutely not.
The government of India has every business to decide where it wants to open
absolutely.
up. And if it is very clear that it has got to open up in A, it is very clear that it shall not open up in FDI multi-brand retail. It is a stated, considered position. As to how we are coming out of this executive order which this last government brought in with such a haste, in spite of the fact that at that time the parliament was in session. Although technically they can claim that they were right in bringing it, they didn't have to come to the parliament. The sentiment in the country was equally divided between both sides, and therefore as to how we are going to handle that end of it with an executive order sitting as it were before us, staring at our face, is something which the cabinet will work and come back with. But
because the
from
former
our
law
side,
officer's opinion is that it is not something that you can do a U-turn on. It's not an opt-in, opt-out policy that would not be valid, that would not be legally tenable.
The government is going to look into it. Opinions may come. One law officer may say one thing, another may say something else. The government will have to take a call on it.
On that note, we'll take a break. When we return, we continue our conversation with the Commerce and Minister of State for Finance, Nirmala Sitharaman.